We have a arch that leads to our front door. It's right by a courtyard, and I wanted to make a decorative gate with an arch to kind of set the area off. You can see this is the courtyard, and that trellis there was my practice in making an arch. I wanted the gate to look similar to some that I had seen in various neighborhoods. But the problem was to get the straight piece of metal to curve similar to these doors here. I searched the internet and couldn't find anything that explained how to make a arch out of a straight piece of metal. Actually, I should state that I couldn't find anything that would explain how to bend rectangular tubing. I could find places that would explain how to band square tubing by hand, but not rectangular tubing. So I want to explain the process that I went through to bend rectangular tubing as you see on this arch. And I hope it's useful to you in your projects. So to do this, it's going to require just a little bit of algebra, but hang with me, it's not bad. Also, assuming that the arch that we want to make is half a circle. So let's start with the formula for calculating the circumference of a circle, which is 2 times pi times r. So you can see that I have highlighted that formula in the middle of the screen. And of course, pi is basically equal to 3.14. You basically need to calculate the circumference of two independent circles, one representing the outside of the circle and the other representing the inside of the circle. But because we're doing an arch and not technically a circle, we only need to calculate half those amounts. You can see here that I've highlighted L1 and L2. L1 is the length of the outside, L2 is the length of the inside of the arch. Because we are calculating an arch and not a circle, it's not necessary to multiply each of them by 2. I've now circled two r values, meaning the radius. The radius of the outside of the arch is 26.4 inches, and the radius of the inside of the arch is 24.4 inches. Using those two values of radius, one is the outside of the arch, the other 24.4 is the inside of the arch. Plug those into the formulas for L1 and L2, and you can see that L1's length is 82.8 and L2's length is 76.5 inches. You can ignore the circumference values there because we're calculating an arch, not circles. The arch values are half of what the circumference of the circle would be. Now if you subtract L2 from L1, it is 6.28 in the arch that I am constructing. That means that the inside of the arch is 6.28 inches shorter than the outside of the arch. In other words, 6.28 inches of metal must be taken out of the inside of the arch in order to get the proper bend. The width of my saw blade is 1/8 of an inch, or 0.125 inches. So that divided into the 6 inches that needs to be removed from the inside of the arch yields 50 cuts that need to be made. Actually 50 plus just a little bit. Here you can see that I've started making the 50 cuts. However, I'm only cutting halfway through, because if you cut all the way to the outside edge, the resulting gap when you bend the metal will be larger than you're really going to want to weld. I cut the other half using an angle grinder with a very thin cutoff wheel on it. But remember, I didn't cut all the way through, just up to the outside edge, but not the outside edge. So I'll play a little video and explain it a little bit more, and you can see that before I started this whole process, I created a template of the arch out of plywood, and I clamped the arch to the plywood very tightly. Here's the arch, and it turned out so far really good. It's just the right size that I had hoped. I cut 50 cuts halfway through the metal on either side, the width of a saw blade, and then I used the cutoff wheel to finish cutting it from, you can see where the saw blade cut, where it's heated up, and then I used the cutoff wheel to here. And then of course I did not cut this side, and so both sides and this side are cut. So 3 sides are cut, but not this 4th side. And then that allowed me to bend it, leaving very little gap that has to be welded. That's why I didn't take the saw blade all the way through, because it would have left a bigger gap. You can see that even the cutoff wheel left a little bit of a gap, but the saw blade part closed up really well. Now, I didn't quite get it as tight over here as I wanted it, and so I did use the cutoff to cut out a little bit more out of that spot. But I think that was unnecessary. I just applied a little more pressure and clamped it down, and I think it would have been fine. But anyway, I'm pretty pleased with it now. I just need to weld it up. Here it is after welding, and here it is after grinding those welds down. Now I will tell you that I made a mistake in my welding, because I should have welded a little bit on the left, a little bit on the right, back to the left, a little bit in the center, to the right, left, right, center, because I think what I did is I started on the left and just welded all the way through over to the right, and it did tweak the arch just a little bit by putting that much heat on one specific part of the arch, so all at once. Other than paint, this is the finished product, and overall I'm pleased with it. I hope this was helpful to you.